Hello all, I am Palak Vadaria, Assistant Professor at LG Institute of Engineering and Technology from Department of Electronics and Communication. Today we will discuss the for loop programs from unit number 2. If you remember, then I'll give you the two exercises. One is to generate the Fibonacci series and the second is to check whether the string is palindrome or not. So let's start our today's session, that is program number 1. Write a Python program to display the Fibonacci sequence up to the nth term. So for example, if the user will enter the 7, so it will generate how many terms? That is 7 terms. For example, in output, see the first is what is the 0, then the second is what 1. Now if you add 0 plus 1, that is what it's a 1. Now you just add 1 plus 1, that is what it's a 2. 2 plus 1, that is what it's a 3. Then 2 plus 3, that is of 5, and 5 plus 3 is what? 8. So this is what is a Fibonacci series. Now we want to generate this series using the Python programming. So let's write this code in a PyCharm. Now let's write the first variable, that is I'm using, that is n terms. That equal to, it's an integer, then input. Here user will enter the how many terms he or she want in its Fibonacci series. So first of all, input how many terms, right? So user will enter how many terms they want. Now next, I'm just writing n1 and n2. Because if you remember, when we discuss the Fibonacci series, then the first element is what? It's a 0, and the second element is what? It's a 1. So by default, you have to take these two variables. So I'm just initialize the n1 with 0 and n2, that with what? It's a 1. You can write this statement like this, that is n1 and then n2, that equal to what? It's a 0, 1. Okay, you can use any of this method. And then I'm using the another variable, that is count, that equal to what? It's a 0, because I want to use this variable in my program. Now first I'm just writing if n terms is less than or equal to 0. That means, what should I write? Print, that is please enter a positive number. Okay, because if the value is what is a negative, if n term is negative, then how you can generate the Fibonacci series up to the n term? For that, what you require the positive number. So if the user will enter any negative number, then your program will give us one prompt, that is please enter the positive number. Else if, here, that is else if n terms that equal to 1. If n term equal to 1, then you just need to write print, then it's a Fibonacci series, or you can say it's a sequence up to, then here I want to write, that is n terms, and then simply I want to write this colon. So what this will do, it will print first Fibonacci series up to then n terms. That is, for example, if user is enter the 1, then it will enter what? It will print what? It's a 1. If the user will enter the 2, then in place of n terms, simply it will print what? It's a 2. Then it's a print n1. So if user will enter n terms that equal to 1, so your Fibonacci series is what? It's a 0, only the one number. So it's what? It's our n1. So simply I just write it's a print n1. Else, if you user will enter 2, 3, 5 that is greater than 1, then print that is Fibonacci series and then you just use the loop, that is while loop, while count is less than n terms. Initially, if you remember, then I showed the count that equal to what is 0. So here the first condition is evaluated, that is 0 is less than n terms. Definitely this condition will become true. Then what we want to print, that is print n1, because the first number is what is 0. And then I'll just use the another variable to add the value of n1 and n2. Then what we have to do, that is n1 that equal to n2 and n2 that equal to what? It's the nth. Alright. And then simply what we will do, we will increase the value of count by 1. So count equal to count plus 1. Now this code is complete. Now let's execute this code and check. Run and run test. If the user will enter 7, then see the sequence. That is what? It's the, yes, it's the correct sequence. 0, then 1. Then it will add 0 plus 1. It's 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 1, that is 3. Then 2 plus 3, that is 5. And 5 plus 3 is 8. Now let's see the execution of code. Here first of all, user will enter the value of n terms. So I'm just initialize, this is n terms. Value, that is what? It's a 5. And n1 is what? It's a 0. And n2 is what? It's a 1. Here n term that is equal to what? It's a 5. So 5 is not less than or equal to 0. So the body of if will not execute it. Now it will check n term equal to 1. No, that is also not true. So the body of else if will also not execute it. Now the program goes to line number 9, that is at else statement. So simply it will print first of all Fibonacci series. Alright, then the while loop. While count. So here the first of all the value of count is what? Is the 0. Then yes, the 0 is less than what? N term. N term is what? It's a 5. So this condition is satisfied. Here it will print what? It's the n1. And n1 is what? It's the 0. Now here in nth, the value of n1 and n2, that is what? 0 plus 1. So nth that equal to what? 1. Now the new value of n1 that equal to n2, and we know that the n2 is what? It's the 1. And value of n2 that equal to nth, and nth is also what? It's the 1. Now the count value is increased by 1. So initially the count was what? Is the 0. Now it become 1. So again it will check. Here the count is become what? It's the 1. So 1 is less than n term. Yes, 1 is less than 5. So simply what? It will print n1. Already 0 is printed. Now it will again print n1. n1 is what? It's the 1. Now the 1 is printed. Now nth will become what? n1 plus n2. So 1 plus 1. So that will become what? It's a 2. Now n1 is what? It's n2. We know that n2 is what? It's a 1. Now value of n2, that is what? It's a nth. And nth is what? It's a 2. And count is increased by the 1. So count will become what? It's a 2. Now again it will check this condition. Yes, 2 is less than 5. So simply it will print what? N1. In place of N1 what we have? It's 1. Now nth is what? N1 plus N2, that will become 3. Here it's 2. And nth is what? It's a 3. Now after the execution of this count, the count will become 3. Now again it will check. Okay, likewise the value of N1, N2 and nth is changed after every iteration. And simply we are just going to print the value of what? It's a N1. So I hope the execution of this code is clear. If you have any doubt, then just let me know. Now, see, if I run this code and if I enter -1, then see the code says please enter the positive number, because it will compare this statement. N term is less than 0, less than yes, then simply it will print enter the positive number. Okay. Now if you enter 1, then Fibonacci series is what? Is the N1. So now the body of else will not execute it. Alright. Now the next program, that is write a program to check if the string is palindrome or not. So how we can check the string is palindrome or not? So consider this test data. If the string is Malayalam, then the output is what? Is it true? Because if you reverse the string, then after the spelling will remain same. It is what? It's a Malayalam. You start the reading at the end. Then after the string will remain same. Then we can say that that string is what? Is a palindrome. If I enter electronics, then no, that string is not palindrome. So simply output is what? Is a false. Now let's write this code. Here user will enter the string. So first is S. Then we will write the command, that is input, and then enter the string. Now next we will just write a one for loop, that is for I in range. We will start the range with the 0 and we want to complete this range by, that is S, that is length of what? It's the S, then it's divided by what? It's the 2. Okay. So why we are using the length as divided by 2? Here we are just dividing our string in a 2 part, because we want to compare the first character with the last, then the second with the second last, then the third with the third last, like that. So by using the length as divided by 2, we just divide our string in a 2 part, 2 different part. Now next, A equal to what? Is the string I. That is what is for the first character. Then B equal to what? I'm just writing S, and then it's the length of S, then -1 and then minus I. So what will happen first? If I is 0, so here length of S is calculated, then length of S -1, and we know I is what? It's a 0. So the first character will compare with the last character. If I is increment by 1, so what will happen? Then this is what is a second character. Here it will length of S -1 -1. So it is what is a second last character. So the second character will compare with the second last character. Then simply I want to check, that is if A is equal to B. Yes, if it is yes, then simply I want to print, that is what? It's a true. Otherwise, so it's else. Print is what? It's a false, right? Now let's execute this code and see what will happen. Run test. For example, if I write electronics, then it gives us the error. Check what's the error. Here type error is written, that is float object cannot be interpreted as an integer. And which line number is the line number 2? That is, see here the 11 characters are there in electronics. So when you divide the 11 by 2, that answer is what? It's a float answer. And you cannot give the float number inside the range. So simply you have to write here what? It's an integer. And now execute this code. Run and run test. Now if you write here electronics, then it's what? It's false. Now you just run and type here Malayam, Malayalam. Then it's true, right? Thank you.